My Ice Queen girlfriend has a seriously sick possessive streak. Just because I spent 10 minutes scrolling through TikToks of hot girls in the car, Chloe Sterling's possessive side flared up, and she shot me this icy glare before straight up kicking me out. My body went rigid, and when I looked up, I saw lines of text scrolling across my vision. TSK, TSK. Our guy just paused on a video of a hot girl for 2 seconds, and Chloe's already losing it. Here we go again. Every time she gets jealous, she wants to break something, but she's too scared of freaking him out. So she just puts on a tough act and pushes him away. Man, I absolutely live for this character type. An untouchable ice queen on the outside, but secretly a totally unhinged, possessive psycho for him and only him. After the comments faded, I numbly grabbed my bag and got out of the car in silence. The second the door shut, the sports car peeled out, and a light drizzle started to fall. I was walking alone, getting completely soaked, when the comments started rolling again. Ethan, dude, just be a little sweet to her. Don't you get it? If you just kissed her, she's the type who would literally die for you. Chloe's probably red-eyed and flooring it on the freeway right now just to blow off steam. She's miserable, but she's got to keep up that Ice Queen act. It's killing me. Watching those comments flash by, I remembered the first time I ever saw them. 7 years ago, I passed out from low blood sugar and was carried to the campus clinic by Chloe, who just happened to be walking by. I fell for her the second I saw her. After learning her name, I started pursuing her like crazy. My friends all told me to stop dreaming and give it up, because Chloe was the campus's notorious Ice Queen. Completely untouchable and totally uninterested in guys. Just when I was about to throw in the towel, the pop-up comments appeared. They started feeding me inside information. The truth is, Chloe is totally into him. She fell for him the second he passed out in her arms. She's just too proud to admit it because she loves the thrill of him chasing her. Every time he tells her he likes her, she's secretly ecstatic, but she rejects him coldly just so she can hear him say it again later. And get this, she has a drawer stuffed with his photos that she looks at 100 times a day. The sudden flood of information made me so curious that I had to check. Sure enough, I snuck a look and found a stash of my photos in her desk. After that, with the comments guiding me, I never gave up no matter how many times Chloe turned me down. In fact, every rejection just made me try harder. I knew she secretly cared about me. So even though it was tough, I was happy to do it. My persistence finally paid off, and we eventually got married. But after the wedding, her coldness only got worse. She'd go on business trips without telling me. She was never around for our anniversary. And once, when I had a 102-degree fever, she refused to come home from the office. But every time, the comments would pop up right on cue. Heard Ethan was sick and Chloe was freaking out at her office. She sent her assistant with medicine immediately. She watched over him all night while he slept, and even stole a few kisses. She didn't sleep a wink. And so I dragged myself through one miserable day after another, surviving on the love revealed in those comments. They all said she was madly in love with me, just too proud and emotionally constipated to show it, like a classic romance heroine who can't communicate to save her life. And like an idiot, I believed them over and over again. Today marked the 99th time Chloe had hurt me in the name of love. Standing there in the rain, I felt a kind of exhaustion I'd never known before. I took a step forward, and a speeding car slammed into me from behind, sending me flying. I hit the pavement hard. Bright red blood pooled beneath me as a wave of agonizing pain shot through my entire body. My vision blurred, and just before I blacked out, a single thought echoed in my mind. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. I don't know how long I was out, but I slowly opened my eyes and found myself lying in a hospital bed. A dull ache throbbed in my chest, and I couldn't help but groan. You're awake. The cool, familiar voice made me turn my head with effort. Chloe was sitting by my bed, her eyes red and swollen. When she saw I was awake, she instinctively leaned in, but then stopped herself, pulling back the hand that had been reaching toward me. I tried to sit up, but the door to my room swung open. Chloe, here to see Ethan again? Dylan Prescott walked in wearing a doctor's coat and a gentle smile. Don't worry, I did the surgery myself. It was a complete success. Chloe's face immediately turned to ice. She quickly shoved a medical chart into her pocket. I'm not here for him. She picked up a thermos from the nightstand, her voice suddenly soft on purpose. You were in surgery all day yesterday. I brought you some soup. Dylan's eyes lit up as he took it, pleasantly surprised. You made this just for me? Chloe hummed in agreement, expertly pouring a bowl, blowing on it to cool it down, and lifting it to his lips. Be careful, it's hot. Dylan took a sip and then said pointedly, Chloe, this piece of chicken is too big for me to eat. After a brief pause, Chloe actually took the chopsticks from him and ate the piece of chicken herself. I watched the whole thing in silence, my nails digging into my palms. Right on schedule, the comments appeared again. She's lying again. She spent 4 hours making that soup for Ethan. She completely lost it when she heard about the accident. She pulled strings to clear traffic all the way to the hospital, flew in the best surgical team in the country, and hasn't left his bedside for days. But the second he wakes up, her pride kicks in and she puts the act back on. This Dylan guy had a huge crush on her in college, but she never gave him the time of day. She's only acting close with him now because she saw Ethan talking to another woman last week and got insanely jealous. Dylan started hitting on her again, so she's using him to make Ethan jealous. I looked at the comments and felt a bitter sense of irony. For 7 years, I'd been a complete fool holding this broken relationship together with nothing but these phantom words. Lost in thought, I didn't notice Dylan approaching my bed with the bowl of soup. Ethan, you should have some too, he said with a smile. Just the sight of it made my stomach turn. No thanks. Come on, don't be like that, Dylan urged, pushing the bowl closer. It'll help you get better. I said no. I swatted his hand away, accidentally knocking the bowl over. Scalding soup splashed across my bandages and the back of Dylan's hand. I doubled over in pain as fresh blood soaked through the gauze. Chloe rushed toward me in a flash, but stopped just short of my bed and turned to Dylan instead. She gently took Dylan's hand, her voice dripping with concern. Does it hurt? Let me take you to get that treated. Then she turned to me, her gaze turning ice cold. Dylan was just trying to help you. Not only were you ungrateful, you hurt him. That's going too far, Ethan. I watched her lead Dylan away without even glancing back while the comments kept rolling. She's only mad because Ethan refused her soup. She's actually dying inside with worry. She's just taking Dylan out of the room so she can get a doctor in here to check Ethan's wound. Those words felt like daggers stabbing into my heart. For 7 years, I had relied on those comments, using them to convince myself to forgive her coldness and cruelty. But real love shouldn't need a narrator, right? Tears streamed silently down my face. At that moment, I finally made my decision. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Hello, Mr. Evans. I need you to draw up divorce papers for me. The moment I mentioned divorce, the comments exploded. What kind of plot twist is this? Why does he suddenly want a divorce? No, Chloe loves him so much. This will destroy her. Yeah, she just can't express herself. She's crazy about him. She hasn't done anything wrong. Why is everyone panicking? Relax. He's just angry. He's trying to scare her. He's loved her for years. He's not actually going to leave. As the comments reached a consensus, I couldn't help but give a bitter, self-mocking smile. Maybe Chloe thought the same thing, which is exactly why she kept pushing my boundaries. But I'm not her possession. My love for her could only survive so much coldness before it started fading away. An hour later, the lawyer delivered the papers. He informed me gravely, Mr. Hayes, once your wife signs this, you just have to wait out the 30-day cooling-off period, and then the divorce will be final. I nodded and slipped the papers into my bag. I spent the next few days recovering in the hospital. Chloe never visited again, but every time I went for a checkup or stopped by the pharmacy, I'd see her fussing over Dylan. On the day I was discharged, I left without saying a single word to her. Back home, I started packing up everything that reminded me of Chloe, planning to throw it all away. The dresses I bought her that she never wore. The photos of us where she always looked miserable. The matching couple mugs and slippers she always scorned. The comments started up again. He's throwing everything out. If Chloe finds out, she's going to be devastated. She secretly loves all that stuff because he gave it to her. She's just pretending she doesn't care. She probably has it all carefully stored away somewhere. Even in the photos where she looks like an ice queen, she's secretly smiling inside and fighting the urge to hold his hand. Her act is so convincing, she's even fooled him. I didn't care anymore whether Chloe was just acting or if she genuinely felt nothing. I decisively tossed the boxes into the dumpster outside. The heavy thud startled Chloe, who had just walked through the door. She stood in the foyer, her face draining of color. What are you doing? Her voice was tight, with suppressed rage. Who gave you permission to throw my things away? I didn't even look up, my voice cold and calm. I bought them. Since you obviously don't want them, what's the problem? Chloe opened her mouth to say something, but was suddenly cut off by Dylan bursting in. Chloe, he panted, holding up a necklace. You left your Van Cleef and our pals at my apartment. He sensed the tense atmosphere and added awkwardly. Sorry. Are you two fighting? I can go. Dylan turned to leave, but Chloe stopped him, which was unusual for her. We're not fighting. Just getting rid of some junk. You're a guest. Come on in. She warmly ushered Dylan inside, made him coffee, and gave him a tour of her study, wine cellar, and music room. When he suggested they play a piano duet, she eagerly agreed, playing song after song with him. He complimented her artistic talent, so she immediately set up an easel and sketched his portrait. He mentioned wanting to see a movie, so she sat with him on the couch, discussing the plot and hanging on his every word. I watched the whole damn thing, and every moment felt like another needle stabbing straight into my heart. The scrolling comments kept insisting she was only doing this to make me jealous. That while she was playing piano, sketching, and watching movies with Dylan, she was actually thinking about me the whole time. The irony hit like a truck. I had asked her to do all those things with me so many damn times over the years. And every single time, she shut me down with that cold, stony look on her face. Back then, I bought into the comments. I thought she refused because she was scared of letting her guard down and showing how she really felt about me. But seeing her do all of it with Dylan like it was nothing, like it was the easiest thing in the world, yeah, that's when it finally clicked. A love that can't be shown isn't love at all. It's just bullshit. I swallowed the bitter lump in my chest and headed to my room, trying like hell not to care about whatever the hell they were doing. That evening, Dylan knocked on my door. He said Chloe was taking him to a Michelin-starred restaurant and wanted to know if I wanted to tag along. I said no, straight up, but the guy wouldn't take no for an answer. Dude just walked right into my room like he owned the place, still yapping while fiddling with a bracelet sitting on my desk. Chloe already made the reservation. Just come with us. We all went to college together. Out of all the guys chasing her back then, you're the one who actually won over the Ice Queen. Why are you suddenly playing hard to get? He smirked. If I were with her, I'd never treat her like this. I frowned, about to clap back, when suddenly, snap. The diamond bracelet my late mother left me broke in his hands. For a second, my blood ran ice cold. Then it boiled over. I lunged forward and grabbed his wrist. You did that on purpose? He casually shook my hand off like I was nothing. On purpose? Chill out. I just thought it looked nice. Didn't know it was such cheap junk it'd break if someone touched it. He looked at it with fake curiosity. Where'd you get this thing? A flea market? How much was it? I'll pay you for it. He pulled out his wallet, tossed a few $10 bills right into my face, and sneered. Is $40 enough? There. I paid you. Now the bracelet's mine. As he said that, he reached for the broken bracelet again. Yeah, I was done with his crap. I shoved him as hard as I could. Get lost. Right then, we heard footsteps in the hallway. A flash of calculation crossed Dylan's eyes. The next second he let out a sharp cry and threw himself against the wall. Blood immediately started trickling down from his forehead, bright red against his skin. And that's the exact scene Chloe walked into. Dylan on the floor, face covered in blood. Me standing there frozen, holding my broken bracelet. Chloe, Dylan said weakly, reaching a hand toward her. I just broke Ethan's bracelet by accident. I tried to pay him for it, but he just wouldn't let it go. Chloe rushed to his side and helped him up. When her eyes met mine, they were cold as ice. Ethan Hayes, you'd attack someone over a bracelet? Don't you think that's a bit extreme? He started it. He broke my bracelet. Was I wrong to stand up for myself? Dylan is our guest. You're being petty and vindictive with absolutely zero class. Is that how you were raised? Every word she said stabbed straight into my heart. I looked over at Dylan, comfortably leaning in her arms, and the bastard shot me a smug, triumphant smirk. That was it. Everything I'd been holding back for years finally exploded. Chloe Sterling. That bracelet was the last thing my mother gave me before she died. You were there in that hospital room. You saw it. You promised her you'd take care of me. My voice cracked as I shouted. So how the hell have you been doing that all these years? I was begging, honestly begging, for her to drop the act and stand on my side for once. Just this once. But instead, She helped the now unconscious Dylan out of the room and hurried away. The rest of my words died in my throat. I closed my eyes, completely crushed. The warmth in my hand slowly faded until it felt ice cold. I sank down to the floor. After being quiet for a while, the comments started rolling again. I think he's really heartbroken this time. Too bad he doesn't know she was secretly thrilled seeing him finally get jealous and lose his cool over Dylan. She just couldn't show it. Exactly. She rushed Dylan out because she was worried he'd get seriously hurt and Ethan might face criminal charges. She just won't say it out loud. So of course Ethan's going to misunderstand and think she likes Dylan. This is only going to hurt him more. I read those comments and started laughing. A hollow, painful laugh. I carefully picked up the broken pieces of the bracelet and went out to find someone who could fix it. It took 2 days. But eventually, the bracelet came back to me, perfectly restored. I finally let out a long breath of relief and went home. That night, I slept properly for the first time in forever. When I woke up, though, my phone was full of messages from Dylan. Over a dozen of them. All photos. Chloe changing Dylan's bandages. Chloe desperately searching for specialists so his face wouldn't scar. Chloe lighting birthday candles for him and softly singing. Chloe bidding millions on a watch at an auction and placing it on his wrist herself. The comments quickly explained she was only doing it to keep Dylan from pressing charges. But honestly, I didn't feel a damn thing anymore. I was numb. While I was trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life, an old college friend called and invited me to a reunion. Knowing Chloe never went to stuff like that, I agreed. But the second I pushed open the door to the private room, my world froze. Chloe was sitting on the sofa in the corner, and Dylan was right beside her, practically glued to her side. Someone handed Dylan a drink. Chloe casually took it from him and drank it herself. I knew it. Wherever Ethan goes, Chloe finds a way to show up. And that leech Dylan follows her everywhere. So shameless. Hey, don't be so harsh. Without Dylan, we wouldn't get to see Ethan get jealous and Chloe secretly loving it. Dylan's definitely about to start something. I can't wait for the drama. Reading those comments, my heart sank. I had a really bad feeling about this. And just like the comments predicted, Dylan soon dragged Chloe and a few other old friends into a game of truth or dare. Chloe lost the first round. Her dare was to let everyone look through her phone. Everyone knew we'd been together for years, so they were excited to see the Ice Queen's softer side. But when they opened her photo gallery, it was empty. Her notes were blank. Her iMessage history with me was nothing but replies like K and OK. It became painfully obvious to everyone in that room. Even after 7 years, Chloe didn't love me. 7 years and not a single photo together, someone muttered. The room went dead silent. My old friends exchanged awkward looks, not knowing what to say. Dylan, on the other hand, looked freaking thrilled. He leaned forward and asked, Chloe, you and Ethan have been together forever. How do you have absolutely nothing about him on your phone? You don't forget your anniversary or his birthday, right? You do celebrate them? Chloe's eyes flickered before settling on my pale face. To me, every day is just another day. There's nothing special to celebrate. Each word hit like a perfectly aimed knife to my chest. I sat there speechless, drowning in humiliation while the awkward silence grew unbearable. A friend quickly tried to lighten the mood by starting another round. This time, Dylan lost. His dare was to play the Pocky game with someone in the room. The moment he read the card, his eyes went straight to Chloe. Chloe, he said softly, I know you better than anyone here. Help me out with this dare. The room instantly went tense. Everyone looked at me. Then they started trying to talk him out of it, saying it wasn't right since Chloe was married, and he should pick one of the guys instead. Relax, it's just a game, Dylan said, tugging Chloe's sleeve while giving me a challenging look. Ethan's a good sport. He won't mind, right? Chloe glanced at me, like she was waiting to see how I'd react. I kept my head down. Didn't say a word. Pretended I hadn't seen or heard a damn thing. Seconds passed. Her expression slowly darkened. The comments started flashing frantically. Say something, Ethan. If you just say you're not okay with it, she'll stop. She listens to you. She's waiting for you to get jealous. Why aren't you reacting? You're making this worse. I didn't move. Not even a little. Finally, Chloe let out a cold laugh, grabbed the Pocky stick, and said, fine. The room gasped as the ridiculous game began. The chocolate stick got shorter and shorter as their faces moved closer together. Then, right before their lips met, Chloe suddenly tripped and fell straight into Dylan's arms. Their lips collided in a kiss. The room exploded with noise. I jerked my head up, locking eyes with Chloe's shocked expression. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles turned white. But somehow, I forced my face to stay calm. Chloe looked flustered for a second before quickly pushing Dylan away and brushing it off. It was an accident. Game on. My friends awkwardly tried to continue the game, but I couldn't stay there another second. I stood up and walked toward the door on shaky legs. Chloe started to follow me, but Dylan stopped her. This is my fault. I'll talk to him. Chloe, I don't want to cause another fight between you two. Chloe hesitated, then nodded slightly, letting him go after me. The moment we reached the hallway, Dylan grabbed my arm near the stairs. His voice was dripping with arrogance. It was just a kiss. You can't even handle that? I thought you were tougher than that. He leaned closer. But honestly, what does it matter if you're mad? Chloe doesn't give a damn about you. You've been clinging to her for years. She's so sick of you, she can't even pretend to care anymore. He smirked. You're pathetic. Still following her around like some lost puppy. I yanked my arm free, my voice cold as ice. Whatever happens between me and Chloe is none of your damn business. And everything you just said about me? It applies to you too. I looked him straight in the eye. You're just a pawn in her game. Don't get too comfortable. Let me tell you something. Even if we did get divorced, she would never choose you. Then I turned and started walking down the stairs. Dylan's face twisted with anger, and in a sudden burst of rage, he shoved me. I fell from the third floor all the way down to the landing near the first floor utility closet. My body slammed against every step on the way down. When I finally stopped moving, I was lying in a pool of my own blood. I tried to call for help, but only weak, choking gasps came out. No one came. Pain crashed over me in waves, each one worse than the last. My voice faded to a whisper. My vision started going dark. With the last bit of strength I had left, I called Chloe's number. Again, and again, and again. Every call went straight to voicemail. She was rejecting them. Just as I was about to lose hope, the comments appeared again. Dylan told Chloe Ethan got jealous and went home. She's secretly happy and has no idea he's seriously hurt. She's even rejecting his calls to keep up her I don't care act. What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen? My final thought was simple. Either I bleed out right here, or I somehow survive this, and cut her out of my life for good. Then everything went black. The next time I woke up, it was noon, and I could feel someone holding my hand tightly. I blinked my eyes open and saw Chloe, her own eyes completely bloodshot. The second our gazes met, she yanked her hand back like she'd just been burned. The complicated emotions on her face disappeared instantly, replaced by that same old mask of cool indifference she always wore. I knew damn well she was putting on an act, but I didn't say anything. Fighting through the pain, I tried to sit up to grab some water, but I accidentally knocked my briefcase off the nightstand. It slammed onto the floor, and everything spilled out. Seeing me struggling to get out of bed to pick everything up, Chloe quickly bent down and started gathering the scattered items. The last thing was a thick sheath of papers. She picked them up with a frown and glanced at the top page. The words divorce agreement stared right back at her in bold letters. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly snatched the papers out of her hand. The sudden movement made her freeze. Her eyes narrowed, locking onto my trembling hands. What is that? Why are you so nervous? It's a purchase agreement for a house. I need your signature. I avoided her eyes, trying hard to keep my voice steady as I grabbed a pen and held it out to her. The pen hovered between us. Chloe didn't take it. Her cool gaze stayed glued to my face. Give me one good reason why I should sign this. The air suddenly felt heavy. Then the damn comments started scrolling again. She just wants him to give her an easy way out to sweeten the deal a little. Why is he being so dense all of a sudden? Can't he read between the lines? This is a divorce agreement. If she signs it, their ship is totally sunk. He's not trying to convince her because deep down he doesn't want the divorce. I looked down. After a moment, I softened my voice, slipping back into that same old habit of placating her. Our housekeeper said you haven't been sleeping well. I thought a quiet place out in the suburbs would be good for you. Is that a good enough reason? A flicker of something complicated crossed her face, but she didn't ask anything else. She signed the paper with a quick, clean stroke. Her voice was flat, completely emotionless. Text me the new address on moving day. You can handle the rest. Don't ask me about it again. I quickly tucked the signed agreement away and didn't say another word. After I got out of the hospital, I shipped my boxes and started the process of dividing our assets. Chloe never came home during that time, but she kept posting on Facebook nonstop. Pictures of food from fancy restaurants, scenic views from mountain hikes, romantic sunsets over the ocean. And just a few minutes after each of her posts, Dylan would post a photo from the exact same place. A not-so-subtle way of announcing they were together. I knew she was doing it all for my benefit, trying to get some kind of reaction out of me, but honestly, I felt nothing. I just calmly scrolled past, never once asking where she was or what the hell she was doing. As the days passed, Chloe must have sensed something was off because she finally came home. The moment she walked in, her eyes locked onto me, studying my face. She even started telling me about her week, making sure to emphasize her little getaway with Dylan, staring at me the whole time like she was hunting for any sign of jealousy or pain. But I just gave a casual nod. My calm reaction made her frown, frustration creeping into her voice. "What's wrong with you? You seem completely checked out." I looked up at her, and a flood of memories washed over me. For years, I had been her shadow, constantly orbiting around her, just hoping that one day she'd finally drop her guard and be real with me. A single, "I love you too," would have been enough. But all I ever got were her cruel little games, her endless tests, and her complete emotional indifference. A deep exhaustion settled over me, so heavy it felt like I could barely breathe. I stopped hiding how I felt. For the first time, I told her the truth. "I'm only human, Chloe. I get tired. No one can keep pouring everything they have into something and get nothing back. You can't just keep self-destructively giving and giving forever. Once the love is gone, there's nothing left to care about." As I spoke, her expression grew colder and colder until it completely froze over. She shot up from her chair and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the damn walls shook. And right on cue, the comments started rolling again. "It's over. He said all that, but all she heard was the last part. She thinks he doesn't care about her anymore. Now what? She's going to shut down and sulk. Seriously, Ethan, you know how sensitive she is and how she overthinks everything. Why the hell would you say something like that?" A heavy weariness settled into my eyes. I sighed. Haven't I been considerate enough for the past 7 years? And all my consideration ever got me was indifference and pain. Who was ever considerate of me? I ignored everything else and went back to packing my stuff. At 3 in the morning, the sharp ringing of my phone woke me up. Half asleep, I opened my eyes and saw a text from Chloe's sister. It was an address with a short message. "Chloe's had way too much to drink. Can you come get her?" Out of habit, I got dressed and drove over. The address led to a hotel. The door to the room was slightly ajar, and a horrible feeling washed over me. I pushed the door open. My heart dropped. Dylan was on top of Chloe, his clothes messy, his hands fumbling with the buttons of her blouse. Her neck was covered in hickeys, her face flushed in a strange way, and her eyes were completely glazed over. She was totally out of it. It was obvious she'd been drugged. Seeing the panic in Dylan's eyes, I knew instantly that bastard was responsible. Rage exploded through my veins. I lunged forward and punched him hard, sending him crashing onto the floor. He scrambled up, ready to fight back, but I stared him down, my voice cold as ice. "What you're doing is a felony. This room has cameras. You're going to prison for this." The color drained from Dylan's face. He jumped to his feet and bolted out of the room. My heart, which had been pounding in my throat, finally settled a little. I went over to help Chloe up so I could take her to the hospital. But before I knew it, her burning hands wrapped around my waist. Her hot breath brushed against my neck, her lips grazing my cheek. "Ethan, baby," she murmured. "Let me kiss you." Seeing her so out of control and miserable, a million thoughts raced through my mind. But I gritted my teeth, broke free from her grip, and got her to the hospital. I stayed beside her bed all night until my eyes were completely bloodshot. But when Chloe finally woke up, she looked at me with that same cold indifference, ignoring my questions about how she was feeling. The comments started again, narrating her inner thoughts. He wouldn't sleep with her to cure her, so now she's mad and giving him the silent treatment. She finally makes a move on him after all these years, and he pushes her away. Total buzzkill. No wonder she's pissed. Reading the comments, I understood why she was angry, but honestly I was too damn tired to explain anything. So I changed the subject. "What are you going to do about last night? What Dylan did was a crime. You can press charges." A corner of her mouth twitched into a sneer. Her voice turned sharp. Press charges. He just saw that I was suffering and wanted to help. He meant well. If I called the cops on him, I'd be ruining the reputation of someone who was just trying to be kind. I stared at her, completely stunned, my heart sinking. So even if Dylan planned the whole thing, even if he drugged you, you're not going to do anything about it? She looked away, her expression cold as she defended him without even a hint of shame. He just likes me so much that he did something impulsive and irrational. He wasn't trying to kill me or steal from me. So why should I punish someone who cares about me? Not everyone is as cruel as you. Watching me suffer like that and refusing to help. Just as she finished speaking, her phone rang. It was Dylan calling to apologize. Chloe immediately stood up and walked out into the hallway, comforting him in quiet whispers. I was left alone in the room, staring at the comments scrolling wildly across my vision. The truth is, she knew Dylan drugged the drink. She drank it willingly and had her friend call Ethan over because she wanted to see him get jealous and lose his mind. She just wanted proof that he loved her. She figured it was the perfect chance to sleep with him and they'd naturally make up afterward. Too bad he's so damn dense. Now she's back to feeling insecure and second-guessing everything. The sudden realization sent a chill through my entire body. I started shaking uncontrollably. My nails dug into my palms, the sharp pain the only thing keeping me grounded. I should have known. It was just another one of her twisted tests. I closed my eyes, grateful that I had already made preparations to leave. In the days that followed, I moved like a ghost from one government office to another, closing bank accounts, changing my legal address, canceling my phone number. I was slowly erasing every trace of myself, preparing to disappear completely. My plan was simple. The moment the divorce became final, I would vanish from Chloe's world so completely that she would never be able to find me. On our anniversary, the house was dark and empty. No candlelight dinner. No thoughtful gifts like in previous years. Just me sitting quietly by the window. When Chloe came home to the cold, empty house, her expression hardened. Did you forget something? I didn't even look up. My voice was flat. Our anniversary. You never cared about it before. No need to start now. Her eyes darkened. Without another word, she turned and walked out. The comments appeared right on cue again. Wrong thing to say, Ethan. She was waiting all day for you to do something, and you just shut her down. Of course she's upset. She's probably going out to get drunk now. I didn't care anymore. I grabbed my bag and left. I met my best friend Marcus at a coffee shop. After a little small talk, I got straight to the point. Marcus, I need you to arrange a private jet for me. As soon as the divorce is final, I'm leaving the country. I don't want anyone to know where I'm going, especially not Chloe. Marcus knew how badly I'd suffered in the marriage, and he agreed without hesitation. I thanked him and was heading home when Dylan and a few of his buddies suddenly blocked my path. Maybe all the attention from Chloe had gone to his head, because Dylan looked cockier than ever, mocking me right there in public. Well, look who it is. Don't you clean up nice for a pathetic loser? Ethan Hayes, I thought you couldn't stand being away from Chloe for even a second. So what the hell are you doing out here all alone? Did she finally kick you to the curb? I told you she never loved you. She was just settling. It was only a matter of time before she kicked you out anyway. I kept my mouth shut and tried to walk past them, just wanting to avoid a damn scene. But Dylan wouldn't drop it. His insults kept getting nastier and nastier, and then he started talking trash about my parents. That was it. The rage I'd been bottling up for years finally boiled over. I punched him hard. The next thing I knew, his buddies were all over me. I fought back, but hell, it was 4 against 1. My vision started to blur. Stop. That familiar voice made everyone freeze. We all turned to see Chloe standing at the edge of the crowd. Her beautiful face was dark and stormy, and she was giving off this intimidating aura that made the air feel heavy. Dylan's face changed in a split second. He put on a wounded look. Chloe, I just ran into Ethan and said hello, and he started yelling at me, and then he hit me. My friends were only trying to defend me. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let him get the wrong idea about us. Maybe we should just stop seeing each other. Her eyes landed on me, and her pupils shrank. My hair was a mess. There were bloody scratches on my face, and my collar was torn. Her hands hanging by her sides were trembling slightly. A storm of emotions flashed across her face as she looked at me, like she was waiting for me to say something. But I just stood there straight, my face blank like a damn mask, my lips pressed into a thin line. The silence stretched out. Slow torture, eating away at her patience. Finally, she spoke, her voice cold. Since he hit you first, you can hit him back. A flicker of triumph crossed Dylan's face as he raised his hand, aiming straight for my cheek. The comments exploded, a wall of text filling my vision. She's only mad because he's getting beat up and he's still too damn proud to ask her for help. Ethan, just say the word. She wouldn't just teach these guys a lesson. She'd burn this whole place down for you. Why are you so quiet? Say something. Anything. She'll back down if you just speak. I lifted my head and met Chloe's icy gaze. 7 years. Hadn't I already explained enough? The sharp crack of a slap echoed through the sudden silence. For a split second, Chloe's expression froze, but it quickly went back to her usual mask of cold indifference. My head snapped to the side. My cheek stung like hell, but my heart felt like a frozen lake, completely still. I looked straight at Chloe, my voice calm. Is that enough? Are we even now? Can I go? I saw her swallow hard, her fists clenched at her sides, knuckles white. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. I turned and walked away, and with every step, I felt more sure about it. Behind me, the comments were going crazy. She regrets it. She's dying inside. She's completely broken. Go back and comfort her, Ethan. But I never looked back. Chloe stood frozen, watching me walk away until I disappeared around the corner. She never said a word to stop me. She never came after me. The day I left, I got up early to pick up the final divorce decree. The moment I arrived at the courthouse, the comments exploded again. Oh my God, he's really doing it. He's actually getting the divorce. But I thought he loved her more than life itself. Why the hell is he giving up now? And she's crazy about him too. They were supposed to be endgame. How did it come to this? No. My ship is sinking. Does Chloe even know he's serious about this? She's going to completely lose it when she finds out. I watched the frantic messages scroll by, but my heart felt like a dead, calm sea. I felt nothing. The clerk stamped the final decree and handed it to me. The second the papers were in my hand, the comments vanished. My world was finally quiet. Back at the house, I took one copy of the decree and placed it inside Chloe's secret room. I took one last look around. The walls were covered with my photos and portraits. Shelves were packed with things that reminded her of me. Then I gently closed the door. When I turned around, Chloe was standing right there. Seeing where I had just come from, she panicked. You were in there? What did you see? My expression stayed calm. I shook my head, just grabbing some files from the study on my way out. She noticed the papers in my hand and visibly relaxed, quickly changing the topic. You're moving out today? I haven't seen any of your boxes. I lied without missing a beat. I already moved everything. Chloe still looked suspicious and was about to say she wanted to come with me to see the new place when her phone rang. It was Dylan. Chloe, I'm getting a party started. You should come. She put him on speaker, her eyes flicking over to me. She was obviously waiting for me to object, to ask her to stay. But I just smiled. Go have fun. The movers can handle everything here. Her face turned to stone, but with no way to let out her anger. She just swallowed it and left for the bar. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I turned, hailed a cab, and headed straight for the airport. An hour later, a private jet was climbing into the sky, and I was gone. In the hazy, blinding lights of the bar, Chloe downed drink after drink. The alcohol burned in her veins, but it couldn't touch the cold knot of frustration in her chest. The noise of the crowd sounded distant, like it was coming from behind a thick glass wall. The only thing crystal clear in her mind was the image of my calm, almost cold face. Chloe, slow down. You're going to get wasted, a friend said, reaching for her glass. Chloe shoved her hand away. Leave me alone. Her voice was sharp. She grabbed the bottle and started drinking straight from it. She drank until her mind started breaking apart and the whole world began to spin. Vaguely, she felt someone helping her stand up. She thought she heard Dylan's voice. Chloe, I'll take you home. She tried to pull away, but her limbs felt heavy as hell. Finally, she gave up and let the darkness swallow her. The next morning, a thin beam of sunlight slipped through the curtains, and a brutal headache woke her up. She opened her eyes with a frown, her vision slowly clearing. Then she froze. She was lying in a man's arms. Her hair spread across his bare chest. Her heart seized, and icy fear shot through her body. She called out the first name that came to her mind. Ethan. The man beside her moved. It wasn't me. It was Dylan. Her pupils shrank instantly. She shot up and shoved him away. What the hell are you doing here? He looked startled, but then his voice turned sickly sweet. Chloe, you were insatiable last night. You couldn't get enough of me. Don't you remember? The color drained from her face. She stared at him, searching for any sign he was lying. But he just looked down, his voice filled with fake hurt. You wouldn't let me go? You said you wanted to be with me forever. Shut up, she snapped, her voice cold as ice. She threw back the covers and scrambled out of bed. Her clothes were scattered all over the floor. Her head was pounding, and last night was a terrifying blank. The alcohol had clouded her mind, but a voice deep inside her was screaming. Impossible. I would never cheat on Ethan. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, her voice low and tight. I would never sleep with you. The only person I want is Ethan. I know exactly what you're trying to do, setting this up so I think something happened. But it's not going to work. I will never, ever divorce him. Dylan's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. Chloe, what are you saying? You love Ethan Hayes? That's impossible. How could you love him then? What about me? What the hell was I to you? She gave him a look sharp enough to cut glass, and he instantly shut up. She picked up her clothes and walked to the door without even glancing back. You, she said coldly, were just a tool I used to make Ethan jealous. Nothing more. The color drained from Dylan's face. Chloe drove home like a damn maniac, her thoughts a tangled mess. She slammed on the brakes in the driveway and ran inside, but the house felt eerily silent. She called my name, but her voice only echoed through the empty living room. Her heart dropped. She ran upstairs and threw open the bedroom door. The bed was perfectly made. Her breathing turned ragged. She grabbed her phone and called me, but it went straight to a cold, automated voice. The number you have dialed is not in service. Her fingers trembled as she sent a flood of texts, but none of them delivered. A panic she had never felt before gripped her chest. She forced herself to stay calm. He wouldn't leave. He was just angry. He'd come back in a few days, just like every other time. All she had to do was wait. Wait for the man who loved her more than anything to come home. Chloe sat at her desk, her fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the polished wood. It was the third day. Still no word from me. Her phone screen lit up again and again, but my name never appeared. She stopped listening for the sound of my footsteps at the door. On the fourth morning, she sat at the dining table, staring at my empty chair, a painful tightness spreading across her chest. She rubbed her temples, and suddenly strange lines of text flashed across her vision. How is she still just sitting there? He's really gone. This is killing me. If she doesn't go after him now, he'll disappear for good. Chloe jumped to her feet, her chair screeching loudly against the floor. She stared into the empty air where the text had been, but it had already vanished. What the hell was that? She whispered. In the hospital's psychiatric ward, the doctor spoke calmly. Miss Sterling, all your tests came back normal. Your brain CT is clear, and there are no problems with your nervous system. Chloe stared at the report, her brows furrowed. Then why the hell am I seeing things that aren't there? The doctor chose his words carefully. It could be a mild hallucination caused by extreme stress. I recommend you get more rest and try to relax. Chloe let out a short, bitter laugh and walked out. She almost crashed into Dylan right outside the door. He was holding a stack of lab reports, and his face lit up the moment he saw her, like nothing had ever happened between them. Chloe, what are you doing here? His expression quickly turned worried. Are you okay? Do you need me to? Chloe didn't even have the patience to pretend to be polite. She walked straight past him, but he hurried after her, sounding way too cheerful. I just saw Ethan downstairs in the lobby. She stopped dead in her tracks. Where? She demanded, turning around slowly, her voice dangerously quiet. Dylan smiled. In the main lobby. He looked like he was in a hurry though. Didn't seem to be in a great mood. I called his name, but he just ignored me. Before he could finish talking, Chloe was already heading toward the elevators. The hospital lobby was crowded, but Chloe scanned every face, every corner, searching for me. But I wasn't there. A dark thought crept into her mind. So he was lying about disappearing. Over the next few days, Chloe started showing up at every high-profile social event. She straight up deliberately took Dylan to the fanciest restaurants, letting him drape his arm over her for photos like it was no big deal. She went with him to an auction and bought him a crazy expensive watch, fastening it on his wrist herself. She even let him post their pictures on his Facebook with those kind of suggestive captions. She went through all the motions with a blank face, like she didn't give a damn, but afterwards she'd just stare at her phone, waiting and waiting, but my name never popped up on her screen. A week later, Chloe couldn't take it anymore and drove to my parents' house. The moment she opened the door, her heart just dropped. The corner of the sofa where I always sat was empty. My favorite tea set was gone from the coffee table. The mug I always used was missing from the kitchen counter. Even my slippers were gone from the entryway. The house was so quiet it felt like I had never lived there at all. She stood there frozen. And then she remembered the boxes I'd thrown out. She ran to her car and drove straight to the city landfill. But the attendant just shook his head. "Ma'am, anything from last week is long gone. There's no way to find it now." She stood before a mountain of garbage, her hands shaking like crazy. On the drive back, her housekeeper called. "Miss Sterling." A package arrived for Mr. Hayes. She slammed her foot on the gas. When she tore open the thin manila envelope, a single document slid out. The divorce agreement. She stared at my signature. It was clean, decisive, without even a hint of hesitation. "Where is he?" Her own voice sounded raw, like some unfamiliar croak. The housekeeper shook his head. "Mr. Hayes only said to expect a delivery. He didn't say where he was going." Suddenly, she remembered something. She ran upstairs and threw open the door to the secret room. Her eyes landed on a drawer. With a trembling hand, she pulled it open. Inside was a dark, official-looking document. The divorce decree. She opened it and saw her own signature. She looked around the room, dazed, at the hundreds of photos of me staring back at her from the walls. She realized then that my calm expression that day had been nothing but a mask for a final goodbye. The world started to spin. She slowly sank to the floor, her fingers crushing the divorce decree. "Ethan," she whispered. "Miss Sterling." The housekeeper's voice pulled her back to reality. She slowly got to her feet. He noticed her eyes were now rimmed with red, and something about her had completely changed. She looked down for a moment, then picked up her phone and called her assistant. "Find him. Use every resource we have. I want to know where Ethan is now." The next day, at the Sterling Corporation headquarters, her assistant stood before her, trembling. "Miss Sterling, he left the country on a private jet. The flight plan is completely sealed. We can't find him." The office was silent. Chloe stood there, her jaw tight. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "Useless." She walked to the window, frustration practically radiating off her. Her assistant quickly offered her a flash drive. "But we did find some security footage. It's of Mr. Hayes and Mr. Prescott." She spun around. The projector flickered to life. On the screen, Dylan, no longer the charming guy he pretended to be for her, was arrogantly blocking my way. Well, look who it is. Don't you clean up nice for a pathetic loser?" The scene cut to Dylan's friends laughing in the coffee shop. "I heard he brought her breakfast every day for 3 months straight. What a simp." The cruel laughter filled the silent office. Chloe's expression was impossible to read. Her assistant held his breath. Her knuckles had turned white. She suddenly shot up from her chair, grabbed her keys, and ran out of the building. She was about to ring the doorbell at Dylan's apartment when she heard voices from inside. "That loser Ethan Hayes is finally gone." It was Dylan's voice coming through the door. "You guys should have seen him. Dude looked like a kicked puppy. I slapped him and he didn't even flinch. I heard he chased her for 7 years. That's dedication." Dylan laughed. "That's not dedication. That's being pathetic. Following her around like a shadow." Chloe couldn't stand him, but she couldn't get rid of him. She kicked the door open. Dylan and his 3 friends jumped to their feet, startled. The smirks were still stuck on their faces. On the coffee table was a cake with "Good riddance, Ethan Hayes," written in frosting. "Chloe," Dylan stammered, his face turning white as a sheet. Her eyes landed on the cake. She smiled. A chilling, humorless smile. "Perfect." She turned and walked out. Behind her, Dylan called her name, his voice cracking, but she didn't even bother turning around. In a dimly lit bar, Chloe slammed her glass down on the table. "Tell me the truth," she said to her friends. "What did you all really think of Ethan?" The table went silent. "He was devoted," one of them said carefully. "Yeah," another added. "He brought you breakfast every single day when he was trying to win you over. And when you had that awful flu, he didn't sleep for 3 days. Just stayed by your side." Chloe slammed her glass down again. "I'm asking what you thought of us." Her friends exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, Jessica, the oldest of the group, sighed. Honestly, Chloe, we all thought you were too good for him. He just seemed desperate. You're wrong. Chloe shot to her feet, sweeping a glass off the table. I love him. Do you have any idea the things I did for him? Her voice trailed off when she saw the looks on their faces. They were staring at her like she'd grown a second head. You love him? Jessica repeated, completely incredulous. Then why did you never bring him anywhere with us? Why were you always out of town on business for his birthday? What? The questions came one after another, each one hitting like a stab. Chloe opened her mouth, but she had no answers. She sank back into the couch as her friends started recounting years of my devotion. Remember that insane downpour our sophomore year? He ran across campus in it just to bring you an umbrella. When you were starting your company, he secretly sold the house his parents left him to fund it. And what did he get in return? You forgot your anniversary. You humiliated him in front of our friends. You flirted with other guys right in front of him. Chloe's head was pounding as her friends stared at her in shock. She stumbled to her feet and ran out into the night. Back at the house, the master bedroom was empty, but she could have sworn she could still smell the faint scent of my cologne. She sat by my side of the bed, her fingers brushing against the half-finished bottle of water on the nightstand. She opened the drawer and found a notebook. Her heart started racing as she opened it with trembling hands. Day 100. She forgot, of course, but it's okay. The comments say she actually remembers. She's just waiting for me to make the first move. Fever of 102 today. Called Chloe. She said she was too busy at work to come home, but the comments told me she secretly stood outside my hospital room all night. The journal chronicled 7 years of my slow descent, from understanding, to self-doubt, to total despair. The last entry read, maybe she really does love me, but real love shouldn't need a narrator to confirm it. Goodbye, Chloe Sterling. As the sun began to rise, she sat in the same position, watching the morning light slowly fill the empty room. In the mirror, she saw her own red-rimmed eyes. And behind her, the huge wedding portrait hanging on the wall. In the photo, her face was blank, while my smile was painfully bright. A single tear fell onto the open page of the journal, blurring the ink. Only then did she realize she was crying. The first real emotion she'd shown in 7 years. And it was way too late. At dawn the next day, Chloe was standing outside Dylan's apartment. She knocked, a sharp, controlled rap of her knuckles against the door. When it opened, Dylan's sleepy expression turned into delighted surprise. Chloe, what are you? His surprise vanished the second he saw her face. She didn't give him a chance to speak. She pushed past him into the apartment and threw a thick file onto his coffee table. Security camera stills, audio recordings, transcripts, pharmacy records. The evidence spread across the table in the morning light like a silent accusation. Explain, she said, her voice ice cold. The color drained from his face, but he forced a smile. What's this supposed to prove? That Ethan is mentally weak? How is that my fault? You broke his mother's bracelet on purpose. He pushed me first. I was just. You humiliated him in public at that cafe. I was just telling the truth. Dylan's voice rose, twisting into an ugly sneer. Everyone knows he spent 7 years chasing you like a pathetic dog. The guy's a joke. Her eyes turned completely cold. She stepped toward him slowly, forcing him back against the wall. And you thought I approved of this, didn't you? He shot back, his voice trembling but laced with sick triumph. You never pushed me away. You saw the pictures I posted on Facebook and you never said a word. Even that night at the hotel. Enough. She grabbed him by the throat. Her grip, so tight, he gasped for air. She stared at his face with pure revulsion. You are going to pay for this. She let him go. As she walked away, he slid down to the floor, a bone-deep chill settling over him. That afternoon, in a conference room at St. Jude's Medical Center, the hospital director's voice echoed off the walls. The board has voted to suspend Dr. Dylan Prescott from all medical duties, effective immediately. We have received numerous patient complaints, and the evidence is irrefutable. Dylan shot to his feet, his chair screeching backward. This is a setup. I'll appeal. He looked around at his colleagues, but none of them would meet his eyes. The director slid a file across the table. These are formal complaints from 3 separate patients. Allegations include improper prescription practices and accepting bribes. Dylan grabbed the file, his hands shaking as he flipped through the pages. Suddenly, it all clicked. He grabbed his bag and ran from the room. In the top-floor boardroom of the Sterling Corporation, the board members were listening to the quarterly report when the doors burst open. Everyone turned. Dylan stood there, hair a mess, eyes bloodshot. "Chloe Sterling, how could you do this?" The woman at the head of the table raised a hand, pausing the presentation. She leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled under her chin, expression calm. "You ruined my career," Dylan screamed, his voice echoing across the massive room. "All for that worthless piece of trash. What was so special about him? 7 years, and he couldn't even melt your icy heart." A few board members exchanged looks and quietly slipped out of the room. When the door shut behind the last person, Chloe finally spoke. "This is only the beginning." 3 days later, in the basement of a secluded house in the suburbs, a rustling sound broke the darkness. Dylan was blindfolded. The ropes around his wrists had rubbed his skin raw. He'd lost all track of time. All he knew was that every time he started drifting off, someone would splash him with ice water. "Let me out, please." His voice was a rough croak. "I'll apologize. I'll leave the city." The sound of a heavy door opening made him flinch. Footsteps stopped right in front of him. He smelled her perfume. "Chloe, is that you?" He tried to lunge forward, but lost his balance and hit the ground. "I know I was wrong. I'll never." The blindfold was ripped off his face. The sudden harsh light made his eyes water. Through blurry vision, he saw her looking down at him, her eyes completely empty of emotion. His pupils shrank, and he started laughing, a hysterical, broken sound. "Fine, yeah, I did it. So what, huh? You're telling me you're innocent in all this? You let it happen. Every time I hurt him, you just stood there and watched. You're the one who pushed him away." Her expression turned terrifying. She knelt down and placed her hand on his throat. "You're right," she said, her thumb slowly brushing the frantic pulse in his neck. "And now we're both going to pay the price." As the bodyguard pulled the blindfold back over his eyes, he heard her final words before the heavy door slammed shut. "Let him have some time to think." The air conditioner hummed softly. Dylan curled up in the corner. The rope burns on his wrists were already turning deep purple. For 3 days, nobody said a word to him. Once a day, someone came in and put him through the same crap he had done to me. Today it was a man in black gloves holding a bowl of steaming soup. He walked over to Dylan without saying a damn word. "No, please." Dylan's voice was a hoarse whisper. He tried scrambling away, but his back hit the freezing concrete wall. He had nowhere to go. The man ignored him and threw the boiling soup all over him. The pain was brutal. He screamed as the hot liquid burned his neck and arms, instantly raising angry red welts. He trembled in agony, tears pouring down his face. The man just stared for a second, then turned around and left. The door shut, throwing him back into darkness. He lay on the floor, skin burning like hell, and suddenly remembered the hospital room and the bowl of hot soup he had accidentally spilled on my bandages. On the 5th day, they dragged him to the top of a staircase. He was still blindfolded, but he could feel the edge of the step under his feet. He knew exactly what was coming, and his breath caught in his throat. Just as his nerves were about to snap, a hand shoved him from behind. He crashed down the stairs, the sound of his body smashing into the concrete floor ending in a sickening crunch. Pain exploded through him. He curled into a fetal position, blood from a cut on his forehead running down his face. "Does it hurt?" Chloe's voice, cold and sharp, came from the top of the stairs. He looked up, shaking. He couldn't see her, but he knew she was there, staring down at him. "You're insane," he rasped. She laughed, a quiet, chilling sound. Her footsteps slowly faded away. "More tomorrow," she said. On the 7th day, he was tied to a chair with 2 massive men standing beside him. "Miss Sterling heard you like throwing punches," one of them said. "So she sent us to return the favor." A fist smashed into his jaw. His head snapped sideways, his mouth filling with the taste of blood. Another punch made his ears ring and his vision blur. The hits kept coming, one after another, until he started losing consciousness. On the 10th day, Chloe came back. Dylan looked like absolute trash. His face was covered in bruises, and the burns on his skin had begun to rot. When they removed his blindfold, he squinted in the sudden light, his eyes taking forever to adjust. She sat across from him, her elegant designer dress looking completely out of place in the filthy basement. "I heard you've been suspended," she said calmly. 3 patients filed official complaints. Bribery. Fake prescriptions. I believe the medical board is opening a formal investigation tomorrow. His pupils widened in shock. You did this. You faked the evidence. She stood up and looked down at him. Someone will take you back to the hospital tomorrow. Like I said, this is only the beginning. At St. Jude's Medical Center, Dylan stood inside an operating room, his face as pale as his coat. His hands were bruised and shaking, and his mind was so foggy he could barely hold the scalpel. Doctor, his pressure is dropping, a nurse said urgently. Dylan snapped out of his daze and realized his hands were trembling like crazy. He looked at the patient bleeding out on the table and suddenly felt dizzy. Memories of boiling soup and falling down the stairs flooded his mind. The scalpel slipped from his fingers and clattered onto the floor. In a remote monitoring room, Chloe watched everything on a screen, her face completely blank. She picked up her phone. You can notify the family. The day Dylan got fired, he walked out of the hospital holding a cardboard box with his belongings. The operating room incident had been ruled a major case of malpractice. His medical license was revoked. His career was finished. He didn't even reach the parking lot before a group of people surrounded him. He's the one who killed my father. My sister could have walked again if it wasn't for him. The furious family members of his former patients shoved him down. The contents of his box scattered across the pavement. Someone grabbed his hair and slammed his head against the concrete. In the chaos, someone smashed something heavy into his throat. He let out a choking cry, and then silence. He would never speak again. Meanwhile, in Napa Valley, California, I was trimming roses in my garden, the sun warming my white sweatshirt. Suddenly, a few lines of text floated across my vision. Wow, Chloe seriously destroyed Dylan. Well, he totally had it coming. He was a complete monster to Ethan. I heard his vocal cords got crushed. He'll never speak again. My hand paused for a second. Then I calmly put down the pruning shears, walked to a wicker chair, and picked up my cup of tea. A soft breeze carried the scent of roses through the garden. I looked out over the rolling vine-covered hills, and the flickering text slowly disappeared. I pushed open the windows of my small cottage, sunlight pouring in and warming the hardwood floors. Barefoot, I stepped outside to water my new rose bushes. New? Is he seriously not going back to her? Chloe's done with Dylan, and now she drinks every single day. She doesn't even go to the office anymore. Ethan is being so damn cruel. The lines of text drifted across my vision again. I paused, set the watering can down, and walked back inside. For the last 6 months, these comments had been like a shadow, constantly popping up with updates about Chloe. How she destroyed Dylan using his own tactics. How she started drinking night after night. The comments seemed convinced that hearing all this would somehow make me go back to her. But honestly, I just ignored them and focused on my new life. I learned how to bake croissants. I learned how to paint the Napa sunsets. I even figured out how to fix the leaking roof on my cottage. The comments slowly started appearing less and less. Sometimes an entire day passed without a single one. It felt like the distance between us was finally breaking the connection. Until one rainy evening. I was walking home from the farmer's market when I saw a small figure curled up near my front gate. She was soaked completely, her blonde hair stuck to her forehead. She looked like a lost kitten. Hello, I said, stopping a few feet away. She looked up. Her face was smudged with dirt, and her bright blue eyes almost glowed in the gray rain. Oh, thank God, a human, she said, her English carrying a British accent. My wallet and phone got stolen. Could I maybe use your phone? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Come on in. The fireplace crackled warmly. Wrapped in a blanket and holding a cup of tea, the woman introduced herself. I'm Alice. I was planning to backpack through Northern California, but on the very first day, she made a helpless gesture. Anyway, thanks. I probably would have ended up sleeping under a bridge tonight if it wasn't for you. I slid a plate of toast toward her. What did the police say? She scratched her head, a little embarrassed. They took a report, but not exactly a top priority case. A short silence filled the room. I noticed her backpack was worn out, and the soles of her hiking boots were coming apart. But despite that, she had this bright, lively energy, like a sunflower. Suddenly, she set her tea down and pressed her hands together. I have a huge favor to ask. I said, leaning back a little. Can I stay here for just a few days? She blurted. I can do yard work, fix stuff, cook. I make a killer shepherd's pie. As soon as my friend wires me some money, I'll be out of your hair. I promise. When she saw me frowning, she quickly added, I can sleep in the garage. Or pitch a tent outside. Wow, this new girl is so cheerful. I like her. No way. Ethan belongs with Chloe. The sudden comments made me pause. Alice noticed my hesitation and took it the wrong way. Her shoulders slumped, the light fading from her eyes. For some reason, she reminded me of my neighbor's golden retriever puppy from when I was a kid. Always full of life. There's a small loft upstairs. Her eyes lit up instantly. You mean it? Oh my God, you're an angel. I swear I'll be the best tenant ever. Do you want me to trim those hedges right now? Or I could. I couldn't help smiling. Let's eat first. Over dinner, she told story after story about her travels, getting lost in the Himalayas, getting chased by piranhas in the Amazon. Her smile was so bright, I didn't even notice that the comments had appeared only once that day, and then never again. That night, lying in bed, I could hear her singing completely off-key in the loft upstairs. Moonlight slipped through the curtains, making patterns on the floor. And for the first time in 6 months, I realized I was about to fall asleep without thinking about Chloe. The morning sun filled the kitchen when I heard rustling outside. I looked out the window and saw Alice by the rose bushes, holding a small trowel and happily turning over the soil. She heard the window open and looked up with a wide grin. Morning. The soil out here is really compacted, so I thought I'd loosen it up for them. I nodded slightly and turned to make coffee. In the 2 weeks she had been here, Alice had completely turned my quiet little cottage upside down. There was a wind chime made of shells she'd found hanging on the porch, a bouquet of wild flowers on the table every morning, and she'd even cleaned out the old fireplace, lighting a fire in it every night. By the time the coffee was ready, she had washed her hands and was sprawled on the living room floor, poring over a tattered old guidebook. She was wearing a wrinkled flannel shirt, and her jeans were stained with grass, but she looked happy. It was nice. She held up the guidebook triumphantly. The farmer's market has lavender honey today and a goat cheese tasting. Want to go? I slid her coffee across the table and shook my head. Still no. She sighed dramatically. You've been in Napa for 6 months, and you haven't even been to Lake Beressa? My fingers traced the rim of my mug. She was right. For the past 6 months, I'd been living like a damn hermit in this little cottage. You're always cooped up in here, she said, leaning closer, her blue eyes looking right into mine. Is something wrong? The directness of the question caught me off guard. Chloe had never asked me anything so straightforward. She always made me guess, made me work for it, made me exhaust myself trying to figure out her moods. It would do you good to get out, Alice said softly, but her words rippled through my quiet existence. Okay, I have to admit this girl's got game. That was a smooth move. No, he belongs with Chloe. The comments floated by and I frowned out of habit, but weirdly, I wasn't annoyed this time. Maybe it was because Alice's gaze was so open and honest, as clear as the California sky. Okay. Alice stared at me for a second, then let out a whoop and jumped to her feet, nearly knocking over her coffee. Let's go right now. I'll be your tour guide. The water at Lake Beressa was an impossible shade of blue. I walked barefoot along the shore, watching her splash around in the shallows. She'd rented a bright yellow kayak from somewhere and was determined as hell to teach me how to use it. No, you have to twist your wrists like this. She reached around me from behind to guide my hands, and she smelled like sunshine and pine needles. I suddenly remembered teaching Chloe how to bake a cake years ago, my hands over hers. She'd been so stiff and cold, not even reacting when she got frosting on her sleeve. Hey, Earth to Ethan. Alice snapped her fingers in front of my face. Look what I found. She opened her hand. In her palm was a heart-shaped stone glowing faintly pink in the sun. Here, she said, pressing it into my hand. My grandmother always said these bring good luck. You should smile. The gift was so simple. It wasn't an apology or some weird way to make up for something. It was just a nice thing. That evening at the bustling farmer's market, she dragged me from stall to stall like an excited puppy. She broke a piece of honey cake in two. You have to try this. The guy who runs the stall uses honey from his own bees. The sweetness melted on my tongue, and I closed my eyes, savoring it. Suddenly, she reached out and gently wiped the corner of my mouth with her thumb. You've got a little frosting. The casual intimacy of the gesture made us both freeze for a second. The tips of her ears turned bright red. Oh, look, she said quickly, changing the subject. They have lavender sachets over there. I watched her walk away, a small smile playing on my lips. The kind of affection I'd needed a constant stream of commentary to believe in was as natural and obvious as sunlight with her. That night, we sat on a hillside and watched the stars come out like some kind of magic trick. She produced 2 glasses and a bottle of wine from her backpack. After a few glasses, she started to open up, telling me about her embarrassing moments studying art history at Yale, about getting lost in the desert in Arizona and nearly being arrested for trespassing, about her eccentric uncle who owned an antique store in Santa Fe. I listened quietly, sipping my wine. "I know who you are, you know," she said suddenly. "I saw one of your paintings at an auction in New York once." She looked up at the stars. It was called City Rain. My hand froze halfway to my lips. I turned to her, stunned. That was just a student piece I'd done in college. I donated it to the university when I graduated. I had no idea it had been sold at auction. "The man in the painting," she said softly. "It felt like he wasn't just standing in the rain. Felt like he was the rain. It reminded me of you." The wind rustled through the vineyards around us, and I realized the comments hadn't appeared once all day. She tilted her head, the whole night sky reflected in her eyes. "Want to drive down to the coast tomorrow? See the ocean?" I nodded without hesitation. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about the past or worrying about the future. I was just letting this bright, vibrant girl pull me back into the world. And so the days passed, one after another, peacefully. I walked out of the bakery with a bag of fresh bread, a small smile on my face. They were almond croissants, Alice's favorite. She could eat 3 of them in one sitting. "Ethan." The familiar voice cut through the quiet afternoon like a bolt of lightning. I froze. The bag slipped from my fingers, croissants scattering across the cobblestones. I slowly lifted my head. Chloe was standing just a few feet away. She was wearing a designer dress that looked completely out of place in our sleepy little town. She was thinner than I remembered, and her eyes were bloodshot. The moment our eyes met, her lips pressed into a thin, hard line. "I finally found you," she said, her voice a raw whisper. She took a step forward. I instinctively took a step back, bumping into someone behind me. It was Alice. She put a steadying hand on my shoulder. "What's wrong?" Chloe's gaze turned to ice. She strode forward and pushed Alice's hand off my shoulder. "Who are you?" she demanded. I finally found my voice. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" Alice stepped in front of me, her expression firm but polite. "Excuse me, miss, but who are you?" Chloe ignored her, her eyes locked on me. "Shouldn't I be here?" "Ethan, I was wrong. Please, just come home with me." I saw the desperate hope in her eyes. I turned to Alice, my voice quiet but firm. "She's no one important. Just a stranger." The color drained from Chloe's face. She grabbed my wrist. "A stranger? Ethan, we're married." I pulled my arm away. "Not anymore. You signed the papers." "I didn't know what I was signing," she cried, her voice rising, drawing stares from people on the street. "If I had known, I never would have." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You wouldn't have signed them. Chloe, it's always the same damn thing with you. You only realize what you have when you're about to lose it." Alice gently squeezed my hand. "Do you want to go home?" Chloe's eyes, now bloodshot, darted down to our joined hands. She stepped between us, blocking Alice's path. "Stay away from my husband," she said to Alice, her voice low and dangerous. "Ex-husband." I corrected her, my own voice cold. "Miss Sterling, I'm asking you to leave or I will call the police." The words seemed to physically wound her. She swayed on her feet. Her voice dropped to a near whisper, a desperate plea. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. I'll change. I'll be whatever you want me to be. Please, just come home." For a second, her pleading tone threw me off. The proud, untouchable Chloe Sterling begging. But the moment passed. I shook my head. Home? Maybe once. But not anymore. Not for me. With that, I took Alice's hand and walked away. Late that night, I was packing a suitcase on the floor of my room. Alice leaned in the doorway. "Are you sure you want to leave? Because I could just go punch her in the face for you." I shook my head. "If she found us here, she won't give up that easily." I paused in my folding. "I'm sorry I dragged you into this." She knelt to help me pack my art supplies. "So, where to next? Santa Fe? New Orleans?" I looked up at her. Moonlight from the skylight caught in her blonde hair, making it shine like a halo. I'd known her for less than 2 months. But in that moment, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. "Wherever you go," I said softly. I'll go with you. Her eyes lit up. At the San Francisco airport, I kept glancing toward the security line. Alice had gone to check our bags, leaving me with the carry-ons. Ethan, where are you going? The voice came from behind me, and my blood ran cold. Chloe, stop him. Don't go. Ethan, please. I'm crying. They love each other. Why is this happening? The comments flooded my vision. A dense wall of text blocking everything out. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them again, Chloe was standing right in front of me. Her voice was shaking. I was wrong. All those years, I shouldn't have tested you like that. I shouldn't have kept hurting you. The final boarding call for our flight came over the intercom. I grabbed my bags. Chloe grabbed my arm. At least tell me where you're going. The comments were coming faster now, blurring my vision. I pulled my arm free, stumbling, and Alice, back from the check-in counter, caught me. Are you okay? She asked, steering me toward the security gate, keeping a weary eye on Chloe. Chloe tried to follow, but a sudden surge of passengers blocked her way. From her perspective, the comments were now a frantic, unreadable blur, completely obscuring her view. By the time she pushed through the crowd, all she saw was my back disappearing down the jet bridge. A few days later, in a small town in New Mexico, the morning fog hung low over the quiet streets as the wheels of my suitcase rumbled over the flagstones. Alice walked beside me, her backpack slung over her shoulder, occasionally glancing behind us. I saw her, she whispered. She was standing outside our door until 3 this morning. My grip tightened on the handle of my suitcase. For the last 2 weeks, no matter where we went, she was there like a damn ghost. I'd go to the bakery, and she'd be standing on the corner. I'd be sketching in a cafe, and she'd be sitting at a table across the street. I'd get up in the middle of the night for a glass of water, and I'd see her, a silent silhouette, standing outside our gate. The roar of an engine shattered the morning quiet. A black sedan screeched to a halt in the middle of the road, blocking our path. The door flew open and Chloe got out, her eyes shot with red. Why do you keep running away? She demanded. Why won't you give me another chance? Why won't you even say a proper goodbye? I sighed. I thought I already did. She grabbed my wrist. I don't accept that. I know I was wrong. Just tell me what I have to do. Let go of him, Alice said, stepping forward and forcing Chloe's fingers off my arm. Our 3 shadows tangled together in the morning light. Chloe sneered at Alice. Who the hell are you? This is between my husband and me. Ex-husband, Alice corrected her, stepping in front of me. You're divorced, and no matter how sorry you are, it doesn't change what you did to him. You left him in the rain. You humiliated him in public. You let other people hurt him. Shut up. Chloe swung at her, but Alice dodged the blow. I laughed. See? You can't even stand being ignored for a few weeks. I put up with it for 7 years. I opened the passenger door for Alice. Let's roll. Chloe just stood there as we drove off. The morning fog clung to her clothes. She touched her cheek and blinked, surprised to find it wet with tears. 3 days later, at a small farmhouse out in the countryside, I was sorting through my new art supplies when a low rumble of thunder hit. Summer storms always hit fast and hard. 1 second it's sunny, the next it's a downpour. Alice shut the curtains. She's still out there, she said quietly. Been standing in the rain for 3 freaking hours. The paintbrush I was holding snapped in my hand. I went to the window, peering through the rain. She was outside the fence, soaked head to toe, staring up at my window. Around midnight, a knock on the door shook me from a light sleep. It was Alice, holding a blanket. She's running a fever, she said, shivering. I didn't say anything, but she got it. She took the blanket and went back out. In the rain, Chloe's lips were blue, but her eyes stayed glued to my window. Alice tossed the blanket at her. Don't you dare pass out on our doorstep. I've seen your type before. Think punishing yourself is going to earn forgiveness. Chloe stumbled forward. Let me see him. Alice shoved her back. Do you even know he still has nightmares about you? Screams your name in his sleep. The word stabbed Chloe's heart. Ethan, she screamed. Give me one more chance. The door swung open. It was me, face grim, phone to my ear as I called the cops. By the time they showed, she was a mess, rain and tears running down her face. What do I have to do? She asked, eyes red and raw. What'll it take to make you come back? I looked at the woman who once seemed untouchable and said quietly, nothing short of turning back time. And we both know that's impossible. Sirens grew louder, her phone rang. It was her secretary, frantic. Miss Sterling, Dylan's friends went to the police. They're accusing you of kidnapping and unlawful imprisonment. The police are opening a formal investigation. The rain washed over her pale face as she watched me walk away, and she finally got it. This time, she'd really lost me. But eventually, the rain always stops. I sat in the sunroom, brush in hand, painting a golden wheat field. Outside, Alice pruned an olive tree, humming a horribly off-key Italian folk song. The trial started, but she was only doing it for him. Revenge for Ethan. How many years will she get? The suspense was killing me. Comments swarmed my vision like locusts. I closed my eyes and dipped my brush into the turpentine to clean it. "What's up?" Alice asked, coming in from the garden, hands dirty. I shook my head. Then a news alert pinged on her tablet. Prominent CEO Chloe Sterling on trial for assault and kidnapping charges. Alice swiped it away fast, but I caught a glimpse. Chloe in a gray jumpsuit, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. "Want to follow the story?" Alice asked softly. My brush hovered. "Nah." In the courtroom, the prosecutor pressed play. "Please, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong." Dylan's terrified screams echoed, punctuated by slaps. Jurors squirmed. One woman covered her ears. "This recording's from the defendant's basement," the prosecutor said coldly. Medical reports confirmed the victim was held and tortured for 12 days. Chloe's lawyer objected immediately. "My client was under extreme emotional distress, brought on by the victim's psychological abuse of Mr. Ethan Hayes." The judge banged his gavel. "Defendant, answer the question. How do you plead?" All eyes on her. She lifted her head, a corner of her mouth twitching into a weird little smile. Murmurs spread through the gallery. The prosecutor frowned. She was muttering to herself. "Ethan likes honey in his tea, bites his lip when concentrating, knee aches before ring." Judge banged again. "M. Sterling." She looked up. "I'm guilty. Guilty of all charges." On sentencing day, the first snow fell. I sat by the fire, wrapped in wool, watching Alice roast chestnuts. News droned. Sentenced to 3 years in prison. Sterling Corp. shares down 15%, record low. Comments scrolled. How can he not react? She did all this for him. I picked up the remote and turned off the TV. Firelight flickered across my face. 3 days later, a letter arrived with no return address. Alice held it. Should I open it? I tossed onions into a hot pan. Smell sharp. Burn it. Alice dropped it into the flames. Just before it turned to ash, she glimpsed the first line. "Ethan, I learned how to make your favorite tiramisu." Meanwhile, in a prison visiting room miles away, Chloe stared at her secretary. Did he get the letter? The young woman shook her head. Outside, snow fell harder. She pressed her forehead against the glass, remembering a boy years ago, standing in the rain outside her dorm with breakfast in a bag. Such a light in his eyes, now gone forever. The guard came. Her shoulders shook. No one heard her quiet sob in the empty room. Sunset over the Aegean Sea painted the white walls honey and rose. I stood on my toes to hang the closed sign at our small cafe. 3 years passed. Alice peeked from the kitchen, flour dusting her blonde hair. Sold out of blueberry cheesecake. That old lady from Paris said it was the best she's ever had, even if it's made by an American. A small smile touched my lips as I went to the easel. Blues and whites swirled on the canvas, but something felt missing. Alice wrapped her arms around me. "Zoning out?" she murmured, chin on my shoulder. She pointed at the canvas. "Needs a boat." "A boat? Like lovers running away?" I teased. She gave me a playful nudge, then pulled a crayon from her pocket and drew a crooked little boat with 2 stick figures. "Masterpiece by Alice, master artist," she declared. "Priceless." I laughed. 3 years since I left, I was still quiet, hated crowds. But Alice? She was a stubborn beam of sunlight in the darkest corner of my soul. Late that night, she shook me awake. "Dress warm," she whispered. "Want to show you something." We drove north in our beat-up pickup. I was half asleep, wrapped in a blanket. She slammed the brakes. "We're here." A deserted cliff, Aegean shimmering silver in moonlight. "The aurora," Alice shouted, hands in the air. News said there was a chance in northern Greece tonight. Ribbons of green danced across the sky. I tilted my head back, breath catching. Never thought I'd see Arctic magic from the Mediterranean. Alice turned. I dropped to one knee, holding a simple olive branch ring. "Alice, thank you for loving me as I am. For never trying to change me." loving me quiet, laughing, hiding, seeing it all. The aurora made her blue eyes glitter like sapphires. She held out her left hand. Hands shaking, I slid the ring on. The sky flared, brilliant and silent, like the universe was celebrating. Chloe's out of prison. Text flashed, then vanished. I froze, then smiled genuinely. Leaned in, kissed the woman I'd spend forever with. The last ribbon of light faded. Dawn hinted on the eastern horizon. 3 months later, rainy night in London. Chloe Sterling stood before a gallery window, her new art collection in hand. Sunset over Aegean on the cover. A crude little boat in the corner. Dedication. For Alice, my sunshine. Thanks for loving me for who I really am. Summer rains always came fast. Chloe at a skyscraper window, rain blurring the city. 3 years in prison etched lines and hollowed cheeks. Miss Sterling, equity transfer agreement, her secretary began. I know. She cut him off, pen scratching. She walked out soaked. For the first time in 3 years, she felt light. Following a magazine address, she wandered whitewashed alleys. Coffee scent drifted. She stopped. There, under the cafe sign, Ethan wiped the chalkboard menu, t-shirt and jeans. Tourists fussed. He just smiled, eyes crinkling like 16 years ago. Her nails dug into her palms, chest aching. Glass door flew open. Alice bustled in, flowers in hair, hugged me, kissed me on her toes. Sunlight caught my wedding band. Chloe stumbled, knocking a pot. I looked up. Eyes met. World froze. Back in a sec. I murmured to Alice, stepped outside. Chloe whispered, raw. If we could just go back. No going back, Chloe, I said quietly. Time moves forward. Alice called from the alley with groceries. As I turned, my shirt brushed Chloe's fingers. She reached, missed. I took the bag from Alice, our fingers laced. Sunset cast long shadows, merging into twilight. Chloe stood, motionless, until the sea breeze dried unseen tears. As the last sliver of sun dipped, she turned and walked away, disappearing.